Camp is officially over. The boys are back in the studio. Great fight to break down. We got UFC Noche, Mexican Independence Day. Justin, can you tell me a better way to celebrate Mexican Independence Day than fights happening in Las Vegas, sponsored by Saudi Arabia, with headlined by a Georgian and whatever the fuck Sean O'Malley is. He said he's got guys with Oscars, guys with Emmys, the whole production team out there. What are your expectations, not just for the fights, but for the events, for the event as a whole?
Dude, so again, it's good to be back on Ballin' and Brawn with my guy Hebs here. You know, a little hiatus for a week or so, but a couple of weeks. But, you know, we made it through camp.
Back.
We're back.
We chopped through.
Biggest podcast in the nation is back, coming for Rogan, like we always say.
Like, comment,
we're climbing the charts. We're slowly but steadily climbing the charts.
Rogan's a bum. Did you see his comedy special, dude? We're both way funnier than that bum.
So,
it's not 2018 anymore.
Very, very excited for the card. As far as Dana hyping it up to be the greatest combat sporting event of all time, I think he's putting himself in a big hole because, dude, what could you possibly do that's going to make it so much different? Like, all right, there's going to be basically, here's what it's going to be. I think this is my prediction. I think it's going to be the fights with basically a live, like, flat screen on the sphere type thing of the fight going on, I guess. So, like, if you're high up, you could be watching that as well. I don't really just – I think maybe he's talking about the production as far as TV, like pay-per-view buys, things like that. I don't know where he's going with what's going to make it so unique.
Bro, but you've seen videos of, like, Dead & Co., like, these concerts at the Sphere. You've seen it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like worst possible scenario, like, even if they don't go above and beyond, just like visually, it's going to look cool. Like, we've also never seen, or I don't remember none of the big arenas they go to are just like one-sided, right? So, like, in terms of the in-person experience, I mean, I'm sure it's going to be pretty cool, but as you said, I'm sure they'll have like a ton of bells and whistles for like the people that are pirating it online, unlike yourself and I, a couple of proud PPV buyers. But dude, Dana, the way he talks about everything, I feel like he's losing a lot of fans. I guess he threw out the number that it was like 17 million that they were spending on it. And like the reporter was asking, saying like, oh, you've spent 17 million, whatever. And Dana jumps in. He's like, it's over 20 now. It's like, is that like a good thing? It seems like you might be over budget. And also, you saw the ticket prices?
Yeah.
They've went down almost like, yeah, dude. In terms of the card, let's be honest here. We can call a spade, as you would say. I mean, like, what are we doing here? He said it's going to be the best production that we've ever seen in a live sporting event. Who the fuck are these guys, bro? We looked the first two fights on the main card, all guys from the Contender Series, all prospects, all guys. Yeah, you guys are going to get at me in the comments again. I'm not sure I've ever seen any of these cats fight, you know? I'll just come clean. I was going to pretend like I know who all these guys are, but let's be honest. Osbourne, actually, he's the only one I knew. I can't even think of the other guys' names. I was trying to discreetly look at my screen here, but what do we, Justin, can you explain to me why? Does he think, like, in the same vein as like a McGregor, when there's a big star, he knows it's going to sell well, he doesn't feel like he needs to stack the pay-per-view? Is this what he's thinking with this card?
I think he thinks that the talk, the hype, like, I think he probably is looking at it as like, okay, this card's going to sell regardless of who we put on it. But it's like you said, dude, the first two fights are Contender Series. I mean,
guys,
I've literally, guys, I promise you I'm not a casual, but the only guy I've seen of the four fighters right here is Zellhuber. I think I saw one fight of his. And again, he looks solid, but it's like, why is he? I understand he's Mexican. It's Mexican Independence Day, whatever. But bro, like, you're charging people upwards of $3,000 for a nosebleed, and you're gonna Daniel Zellhuber's on the main card. Like, let's get some dogs on the card. Let's get some name value on the card. It's also a Sphere card,
bro. They just announced Moreno versus Albazi for like a month from now? Like, why can't that fight couldn't have been on this card? Are you kidding me? Like, bro, when he was hyping this up and throwing like all these possible names, like, I don't know. I can't believe this is what we wound up with. It was one of those where you keep thinking he's going to add like another one.
Dude, at one point, I told you, I'm like, yo, are we maybe gonna get a surprise like McGregor on the spear just to like for Dana to really make the money back or something?
But then
Dude,
he could have charged whatever the like 3,000 for nosebleeds or whatever it is.
Easily.
But all right. So speaking of, I'm just gonna shamelessly look at my phone here. I don't really give a shit. Let's get into these main card predictions, the best breakdown on YouTube. Maybe not this time, unfortunately. But we have Ronaldo Rodriguez versus Osbourne. Osbourne, is something Jamaican is his nickname, the flaking Jamaican, something like this. I wish I knew. Justin, can you break this down? Fuck me, I don't even know what I'm saying right now. Can you break this fight down for us? Because I certainly cannot.
Look, it's a little flyweight scrap to start the night. I think also one thing I want to say is I think Dana is looking at this as an opportunity for guys like Rodriguez and Zellhuber as Mexicans to kind of make a statement possibly on this card. Although they're fighting guys that I don't think are slouches, I think Vegas agrees with that, and both of them are not huge favorites. I think you're looking at some competitive fights, but I think it's an opportunity for these guys to make a name for themselves if they come out and have like a really good performance. But I mean, dude, as far as this one goes, you never really pick flyweights to finish fights, to be honest with you. I mean, Figgy back in the day, pretty good finisher, but I think the night's going to start. The main card's going to start off with a little bang here. Rodriguez has, I think, of his 17 wins, I think 10 of them are finishes. I'm going to go with the Mexican to get the night started with some fireworks and get a submission here in round number 2 of this one. What's my reasoning? Don't have one. I'm just simply giving you my prediction on this flyweight intro fight to the card. What's your take, Hebs?
Yeah, so I'm like half kidding because like this is how a lot of these guys pick up like these cult followings, right? It's a guy, whether he's a prospect or he's been in the UFC for a couple years, they come out on a big card in front of a bigger audience. They put on a great performance, get a great finish. That's how these guys, fucking what's his face? Carlos Prates. Obviously, they got a lot going on with the nerds now, but like that guy's blown up the last couple weeks, and like nobody really knew who he was before that fight. So like I'm trying to think of another example, but when you come out and you get a big finish in a big spot, obviously that boosts a lot of your star power, right? So like again, we're giving Dana the benefit of the doubt that like that's why these guys are all on it. But like this card needed one more big fight. I don't think I'm a crazy person for saying that. But you said submission. Osbourne lost 3 out of 4. He's been subbed twice in a row. Rodriguez, a finisher. He's only 25 years of age. Only one fight in the UFC. So again, I point to the odds a lot. Like this seemed like one of those setups where like Rodriguez would be like, minus 400 favorite, like the prospect who they're going to try to push against a guy with a pretty bad record, right? A 15-7 record. Again, I want to go with Rodriguez, but like I have a hard time looking at those odds and thinking that a young guy in Rodriguez will get it done. Osbourne, not much of a finisher. Again, gotten 3 out of 4 L's. I say Ode Osbourne, the flaking Jamaican, the something Jamaican. He's going to get it done. Again, get out of this losing streak he's on right now. I don't know. He's the taller guy. That's about all I could give you. There's my expert analysis. We move on. This is going to be a fun pronunciation. I can't even fucking pronounce that word. Esteban Ribovics versus Daniel Zellhuber. Justin, I'm going to need you to break this one down for me too.
All right. So with this one, lightweight scrap, I will say I did get to watch Zellhuber's, I want to say either his last fight or the fight before that. Zellhuber actually looked pretty sharp in the fight that I saw. Lengthy for the division. Showed slick striking. He actually, honestly, in the fight I saw, I didn't get to see the grappling too much. I don't know if he grappled much, but his striking looked pretty well put together. Like, he looked like he's a guy that could make waves in this division. I think he's a guy that the UFC has high hopes for. I think the Mexican fan base, that's always something the UFC and Dana is looking to tap into. And I think this is a pretty high stakes fight for these guys in their careers. Like you said, Ribovics is coming off of the devastating KO of McKinney, and both guys kind of like are coming into this fight with some steam. And I'm looking forward to this one. I think stylistically, I think the fight's going to play out on the feet, and I'm going to lean towards Zellhuber to get this one done via decision. I think it's going to be a pretty entertaining fight, though, and I think I'm going to go with Zellhuber to get this, and I think I'm going to go with Zellhuber to make some waves in the division as in the future as time goes, as he continues to develop his game.
Yeah, well, so Ribovics is a finisher. The guy's got 12 finishes in 13 wins and pretty evenly split, 7 KOs, 5 subs. Again, I think these guys are pretty well matched. Zellhuber was a slightly taller guy, another 25-year-old. I mean, I guess it is pretty cool, these young guns. Again, they all have like only a couple combined fights in the UFC, and 2 25-year-olds is pretty awesome. I'm going to go with Ribovics. The guy's got, like I said, a little bit more finishing capability. I'm just hoping it's a banger of a fight. Maybe I should have done some more research on this guy, but I don't even care. We're moving right along. Finally, a good fight between 2 real people instead of these NPCs. I'm going to get ripped apart for all this stuff, obviously, with our lovely subscribers. But back in June, we were supposed to see this fight, the cursed card that was UFC 303, the return of Conor McGregor, which wasn't. We ended up, and a fight that got put on that card and kind of trying to save it. Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopes was supposed to be the co-main event once upon a time. And one of the weirdest things we've ever seen, a couple hours on about 20 minutes notice, Dan Ige gets called up. Brian Ortega had a stomach problem or something. He had diarrhea. And then he pulls out at the literal last possible minute. Diego Lopes is a badass, still fights. Dan Ige, more of a badass, lives down the road. DMs Hunter Campbell, says, I'm ready to go. They pull him in. And it ended up being a pretty competitive fight, but we knew they were going to rebook Diego Lopes versus Brian Ortega, and now we have it. What better time for those 2 cats to fight on Mexican Independence Day? Justin, I know we broke this down a couple months ago. I don't remember who you picked, but who are you picking now?
Dude, so yeah, this is a very exciting fight, something I'm really looking forward to. Could be arguably the most entertaining fight of the night. I think we have Mr. No Regrets, Mr. Lopes, who I'm just going to come out and say it. I am a fan of the guy, but I do think that he is one of the most flawed and most overrated prospects in the sport right now. I think technically he's not sound in the striking. He's throwing punches with his chin straight up in the air, and he's done that kind of his whole career. But I will say, there's something you can talk technique, and the technique's very important and all that, but you can't attest to the fact that this dude's very strong, I think, for the division, and he's just like a tenacious, he's got that fire under him right now. He's trying to make a name for himself and become this star in the sport. So it's tough when you have a fight like this, a guy in Ortega who has championship experience, 5-round experience, but again, I think this fight being a 3-round fight, that definitely favors Lopes because I don't think Lopez's gas tank is very good. Yeah. And I think given the experience that Ortega has, it would have helped him in this fight. But another thing is, what Ortega are we going to get? Are we going to get a motivated Ortega? Are we going to get an Ortega that's just coming here to make some money and head back to Cali? Mm-hmm. I don't really know what Ortega we're going to get. But after seeing what I saw in the Ige fight and just in multiple Diego fights, he's so technically flawed on the feet, and I think Ortega's good enough on the ground to where he'll be able to counter Lopez's ground game. So I'm gonna go with Ortega to land something heavy in rounds 2 or 3, and
land something heavy.
He might even be down on the scorecards honestly, and get a late finish in this one. I'm going to go with Brian Ortega to get the stoppage here in round 3.
With his hands?
He might hurt him and get the submission. I'll go with definite answer of Ortega via TKO round 3.
TKO. Yeah, I picked Diego the last time, we did this fight, so that was in like June. Although I was very back and forth then, and I'm still very back and forth. I mean, the Ige fight, I don't think you can really take too much from that. Like, you literally had no preparation. You had to weigh. Remember with Ortega, like, they had to weigh in again. They raised it from 45 to 55, like, on weigh-in day. I don't even really remember the full backstory. Like, everyone gave Ortega an excuse for that because it was only like 3 or 4 weeks notice. But so much happened within the like 24 hours before that fight, 48 hours before the fight. I don't really think you could take too much from it. But like you said, Lopes, for all the hype he's getting, and I get rightfully so, he's like an interesting character. He comes out and sparks everyone in like 2 minutes. You're going to get some love. But he is very flawed, right? We saw I believe his UFC debut was against Masvar, and he got pretty much controlled for most of the fight. So a guy like Ortega with his grappling background, well, Ortega, not a great offensive wrestler. Like, he doesn't really have great takedowns, right? Obviously, everyone knows with the jiu-jitsu, the submissions off his back, T-City. But it's not like he really like is shooting like single and double legs and like taking a ton of people down, right? So like, I agree with you that if he could have some success on the feet, he would be able to transfer over to his grappling and possibly get a submission finish on the ground. But dude, I really don't know. Like, and we saw like this guy has an unbelievable chin that's bound to go at some point. This guy's taken life-altering damage in the cage multiple times. And in his most recent fight, we saw Yair clip him badly. We saw Yair nearly finish him. I believe he knocked him down twice in the first round, like 10-8'd him. And then Ortega comes out and he finishes him in the second or third round. So the guy's toughness, his grittiness, I mean, that can't be understated, right? The guy wins fights because of it. And I'm back and forth on this one. I pulled out on the day of, bro. We've never seen it happen, and I really don't know what that says about Ortega's career. The guy has been like literally the inactivity. The fact that this guy still has that number right next to his name is batshit insane. Like, the guy never.
That's a great point that you make. The day of pullout, like, bro. I just don't know what kind of Ortega we're gonna see in that. With a guy like Lopes, the momentum he's got. You know what I mean? I feel like Lopes is the safe pick in this one, you know?
Yeah, and I haven't looked at the odds for this fight because before it was nearly a pick. Like, Lopes was like, I think minus 135, minus 125.
I think Lopes is like, I think he's one like.
I would assume it's a little bit higher.
Lopes minus 170.
Oh, shit. I didn't expect it to be that high. I don't know. I just find that odd, right? Like, I'm not making too like bold of a claim here. We've never seen that. So like I don't know why he didn't pull out the day before when they had to change. Like, he wasn't going to be able to make weight. If they knew he was that sick, like, shouldn't they just said like, oh, like, he can't fight. Again, I guess he's a warrior. He was trying to fight through it. And not even the morning. Like, if you wake up in that morning and you feel like you can't fight, then you say you can't fight. Like, bro, they didn't announce that till like 8 p.m. Like, could not have been more late. It literally was like, I think the main card might have started, or the main card was just starting. I think it was 9 something. Ridiculous, right? I'm going to go Diego Lopes. I keep thinking of the Yair fight, like Ortega getting clipped, fighting through it and getting a finish. But I just don't see him doing that. I think Ortega, we've heard that he has grappling credentials, although we haven't really seen it. I'm going to, side that, like, I think that he'll be able to survive the triangle and the submission attempts from Ortega, but I think he'll get it done. I think it'll be a decision. I don't know if he'll knock him out, but I could see maybe he just clips him in the first round, but that's probably what everyone's going to say. So I casual check myself. Again, Moving on to one of the biggest trilogies in women's recent. I mean, I can't really think of too many trilogies in the world of women's MMA. Juliana Pena got denied one when Amanda Nunes ran to retirement just not to fight her for a third time. But we get the next best thing. Valentina Shevchenko, one of the best women's fighters of all time, former champ, looks to get her belt back after a draw versus Alexa Grasso, a rising superstar in the sport. So yeah, she won one of the biggest upsets I've ever seen in UFC, women's or men's. That first fight, which was on the John Jones Cyril Gane card, to show you how long ago it was, right? Ancient history. That's how long. John Jones was an active fighter the first time these two squared off. So it's interesting to see now, eons later, them finish the story, right? So it's one, or actually, if Shevchenko wins, do they have to fight again? I don't know,
Dude.
There's
not many fights for them to make at this weight class, so I would assume so. Although I think it's Weili Zhang's time to become a double champ. Let's say
that I would like to see, and she would probably. Well, let's just talk. So, 1-0-1 in favor of Grasso. Although everyone thinks that Valentina was robbed in their last fight. It was a super close competitive fight, but that 10-8 scorecard in the last round, which ended up being the deciding factor, was absolute nonsense. So, Justin, how do you see the trilogy playing out?
Yeah, like you said, these two have stories and backgrounds with each other. The first fight, one of the biggest upsets in MMA and women's MMA history. Grasso gets the back, gets the submission, and stuns the world. And then, going into the second fight, I'm like, okay, kind of a fluke, like Shevchenko probably dominates again. And I will say, dude, I did think Shevchenko won the second fight, but the fight was very close, very competitive. And it just, dude, in all the exchanges, it seems to me like, I don't know if Shevchenko's kind of just getting up there in age and losing a little juice, but to me, it seems like Grasso has like a little bit slighter edge in some of these exchanges and some of the, you know what I mean? Like everything, the grappling, like it just seems to me like Grasso has a little bit of, and she has the confidence. I feel like when she's in there with Valentina, most people are like, oh shit, like I'm in there with they're tentative. Like, dude, Grasso's not afraid of anything. She's the younger fighter, the fresher fighter. She's the champion. She has that confidence that she can get the finish over a girl like Valentina. And the momentum of Mexican Independence Day, the crowd, I'm assuming, is going to be backing her heavy here in this one. I'm going to go with Alexa Grasso to get this one done via 49-46 decision and retain her women's flyweight title. What's your take on this one?
I like it. Yeah, no, you see sometimes with like a major upset like that, like off the top of my head, the only thing I'm thinking of is Pena Nunes, which obviously I was joking about earlier, but that was like that was in the Nunes era. She was like a minus 1,000 plus in these fights. So Pena finishes her. And then when she comes out of the next one, she's still like she was still like minus 400 in the rematch, which is pretty crazy. And then what happened? Like we remember that meme of the Pena, the Juliana Pena blitz, equivalent to the Francis Ngannou blitz, and then she got clipped. She got a couple 10-8 rounds in there. She got her ass kicked. And I don't remember the line of Shevchenko Grasso too, but I know a lot of people thought it was a fluke. Valentina was a major favorite in the first fight. She was a dominant champ. People were calling for a trilogy with Nunes. Everyone says, right, she's more skilled. Nunes is just way bigger and stronger. And who'd she fight? Santos. Remember, that was like a super close decision. I think that was in the fight before. So people maybe saw that she is beatable, but she was still a massive favorite over Alexa Grasso. And then we saw Grasso submit her, which was crazy. I didn't think we would ever see that. And then they come out. Was it a fluke? We'll figure it out. And it very clearly was not a fluke. However you score the rematch, Grasso dropped her in that fight. That's again, you can't pay me to rewatch a woman's fight. Not even that one, although I remember it being a close competitive fight. But I remember Grasso dropping her, which we've never seen Valentina get dropped. Grasso taking her down, which we just never saw that for years, right? Other than when she fought Nunes. So, again, I think it gives you so much confidence beating the person. Like, you're not scared of, like, some of these MMA fighters, like a Valentina, that like seemed unbeatable for so long. Like, when you go in there and beat her, I can't imagine the confidence that gives you for the next time out, right? So, regardless of how you scored that fight, super, super close. Again, if it wasn't that 10-8, when people say robbery, they don't point to the specific rounds. They just like say who they thought won. So like you see that 10-8 scorecard, and yeah, as bad as it is, I'm sure if you actually broke down some of those rounds, which again, I will certainly not be doing, but it was a very close fight. So I'm going with Alexa Grasso. You know, Shevchenko's getting up there in age. I know, I don't know if you watched did you watch any of The Ultimate Fighter this year?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, it was good. I had to replace it as like the binaural beats I was playing in the background while I went to frickin' sleep, dude. Who cares? I just know Shevchenko, they always push out these clips from it. And Shevchenko during training was like, you guys can't drink water. Like, water is for the weak. It's like, yeah, my 4th grade football coach told me that. Like, what are we talking about here, dude? You can't drink water. Like, grow up. I got Grasso. She seems very cool, right? No comment on her feet or looks or anything like that, but she does seem like a very cool lady. Again, every interview I've seen, she just seems like a very, very unlike a lot of these women's UFC fighters. I will not go into much greater detail on what I mean by that, but she just seems like a very fun. I think it's cool to have champions like that, right? That seem very personable, unlike some of these cats rolling around in the WMMA scene. So I guess we're on the same page with that. I'll go decision as well. I can't see her finishing Valentina. That would be a tough way for Valentina's career to end. But UFC Noche, Rida season, or how do you say that word?
Riyadh season.
Riyadh season, UFC Noche, next Saturday night. Hopefully we'll get some more stuff out there before then. But appreciate you guys tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe. Let's go.